Donald J. Brower here for GardenStateHSWrestling.com, the Near Fall podcast. Exciting week of action. Got a great week coming up. I mean, it's just, we're in the, what you like to call the last leg. We're almost in that third turn for all your racing and track people. We're in that third turn, ready to run for the finish line here. We just finished up the Passaic County Tournament, some other county tournaments we're going on this weekend. We got some big ones coming up. Before we look ahead, we got to look to the man who got us here, Dan Warnikoff, Champion Athletes, our sponsor, the main sponsor of the Garden State HS Wrestling Near Fall podcast. A lot of people ask me all the time why I'm a big proponent of Dan. And I've always used this analogy. You save up your money. You obviously want to get a better car. Nobody wants to drive a beat up Honda or Ford that falls apart. You want to get a fancy car. You want to get, a top-notch car. You're that top-notch car if you're trying to train for an event. Why would you use any type of other bad fuel? Go to the guy up the street who gets the late night gas deliveries and it's all water in the tank. Why? You're going to go to a guy who can help you get the best nutrition for your goals. Dan Warnikoff's the man to do that. Champion Athletes, check him out. He's a big supporter of us, and we love him for it. Now, as we said, busy week last week. We talked about a couple teams clinching as far as some of the areas I cover, some that I cover, some that I don't. Congratulations to the NJIC champions for the Rutherford division, Rutherford for the Colonial Division. The Liberty Division was New Milford, and Butler claimed the Meadowlands Division. So they are clinched, and they'll be into the conference tournament, and they'll be announcing the matchups for that coming up. As far as the Northwest Jersey Athletic Conference, we have a tie in the American Division. Del Barton and Mount Olive clinch a share. For a lot of people asking how, if you remember the Montville match they had earlier, that wound up costing them in the conference, and they end up tied with Mount Olive, even though if you get a chance, Del Barton destroyed the competition down at the Jack Welch schools. I mean, they left no doubt their number one team. Let's just put it that way. They literally showed in that match they're going to have with Bergen Catholic, presumably in the non-public A, either semifinals or finals, is going to be amazing. But those two teams clinched that. Congratulations to Coach Merrill at West Morris, who clinched the national division in the NJAC. I've always said for West Morris, especially the last couple of years, they have some really, really good wrestlers. And the one thing about that is some of these wrestlers, when they go out there and do it, they would have their studs, but then they would have their, holes in the lineup because they couldn't fill everything. So they go out, they actually have these studs who are out there hitting hard, and they have some kids out there. They're not going to win every match, some of these other kids, but they fill a spot. So instead of ending up down 6, 12, 18, you're being competitive. So if you're only down 3, you can possibly come back from that. So they won the match. They actually have a two match lead heading into their final match. So they've clinched that. They clinched it against Roxbury at home, which I know, close rival. And I'm really proud of that team for, the fight. And a lot of people wrote them off with what they're doing, but I didn't. I kind of saw what they were doing in the room, and I realized they were, and this is obviously this is a continuation of the teams Coach Ken Rossi had. But I mean, just a great, well-run program. The last, I've been doing this site for 10 years, 15 years. They have a little dip here and there, but they're always well represented. So congratulations, West Morris. Not a surprise in the Freedom Division, even though they're in a down year. High Point walks away with the Freedom Division. They clinched it with a win, 39-23 over Kittatinny on Friday night. Like I said, High Point's had a down year, went to the Patriot Duels the next day, finished 1-2, but they win their division. They get to put another plaque up there, and we'll see how they do when it comes up here on sections coming up very soon. Hackettstown clinched the share of the Colonial Division. They have, I think, North Warren left on this schedule, but they're undefeated in the division, and I think they should beat North Warren. I don't think it's North Warren. I just think Hackettstown has a little bit more depth, so they clinched a share of that. Hanover Park once again. Everybody's ringing those bells on Hanover Park like this is the end. This is the end. The end is near. The end is near. Hanover Park's going to fall. Nobody knocks them off. So they're still they win the Liberty Division, undefeated in the Liberty Division. So until you knock the champ off, I'm going to keep picking, Hanover Park. Sorry, coaches can get mad about that, but until you knock the champ off and I see something different, that's what I'm going to go with. And then in the Independence Division, Madison, Madison had a great year. I'm not taking anything away from Madison. I'm very impressed with how competitive that division was this year. Because usually, you see that some of the other teams, they fall off. Kinnelon was in a lot of the matches, which nothing to do with them. They lost a great wrestler in Mugallion last year. And for them to show the fight and come out and just be competitive in every match, that's impressive. And that's very, very reliant on the coaching staff, especially Coach DeColo, who I know teaches those kids to, be tough and fight in every match. So if they were in a lot of their matches, as well as Mountain Lakes, Dover, who has to be my surprise. And this is nothing against Dover. They were winning matches that the last couple of years they possibly could have lost. That toughness on that team, that program's on the upswing. Keep an eye on Dover in the next couple of years. If they can get some quality kids in the room and keep them going, because the problem we have with Dover is, and I've noticed this the last few years, you'll get somebody in as a freshman and then they'll quit. Or you get somebody in as a freshman sophomore and they don't want to do anymore. If they can get the youth program figured out and get a nice run of kids, watch out for Dover. Dover's going to be solid. And Parsippany. Now, Parsippany, when you look at the record, you go, wow, okay, they did okay. That culture's changing, and that's on Coach McMickle. That team, I can't tell you how many times people have told me, oh, man, have you heard about Parsippany? Oh, and they roll their eyes. He's creating a culture there, and that's what you want to do. You want to be able to go out there and create a culture and keep the kids interested, because you're going to get those kids who come through the feeder programs like the DeMary and those other ones, and they have a great coaching staff as well as the assistants and Nick Pizzuta and Feliz and all those guys. You need to get not only those kids who are going through the feeder program believing, you need to get some kids out of the hallway. And that's what they're doing there. Great job, Coach McMickle. Very good job this year. And then you head to the Skylands. The other two divisions still up in the air that cover, but the one I think will be decided is the Raritan division. That'll be between Warren Hills and North Hunterdon. They're going to be wrestling each other on the Wednesday. That'll probably decide who wins it. Del Val's back a little bit. They lost one match. They lost to North last week by 2. I don't know who I would pick in that. I kind of think I give Warren Hills a little bit of advantage, but I think North matches up well with them. But I think whoever wins that is in the driver's seat for the Raritan division. Now, I want to talk about an interesting thing. Like, people always ask me, and I get asked this all the time. We're going to do in our reviews, and obviously you can go look at the top 10. Nothing really changed in Passaic this week. They had the Passaic County Tournament. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up too. And, not a lot of shuffling in Morris. A lot of that did that earlier. I kind of see where everybody's falling now. And same with Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex. There's kind of, you understand where people are slotting in. But everybody was asking me, what's one of the strangest things involved with wrestling? Or one of those little, wow, really? So it happened this week. And it's funny to talk about, but it's interesting. So one of the matches this week was Boonton beating Whippany Park, 43-42. It was on criteria, the least number of forfeits. Now, what's interesting about that is they only wrestled 6 matches because Whippany Park has some kids hurt, so they did that. Whippany Park didn't lose a match they wrestled. They won 6 matches. So you're the coach of Whippany Park, and Devin Engelberg, which I great friends with, full disclosure. I was chatting with him before, talking to him a little bit. And Dave Hewin, the coach of Boonton. Engelberger sends out his 6 wrestlers. They win, they get their points, and then they get one forfeit from one forfeit from Boonton. Boonton gets 7 forfeits from Whippany Park. Goes to criteria. Guess what the criteria is? Least number of forfeits. So Coach Engelberger won the matches he needed to, but then he lost the match. I'm not laughing. I think it's one of those, like, what? Like, you just kind of like things that make you go, For all you younger kids, that's a song from the 80s. Look it up. You might know it. I don't know. You don't like 80s. Maybe you do now. I think the 80s are coming back, but I feel bad for, Coach Engelberger, putting his best out there. It was just tough with the criteria. But, those are the matchups, those local matchups. But, yeah, that's a strange one. That's one of those ones you look at and you're like, ooh, wow. But big week of action coming up this week. We talked about some of the other conferences and other divisions that are settled. When it comes to the Big North, This is a big, big week, no pun intended, for the Big North Division. That title in the Independence Division is going to get settled Wednesday. You got Wayne Hills traveling to West Milford, who is tied with Passaic Valley for the lead, and Passaic Valley is going to be traveling to Fairlawn. Now, they're both tied for the lead with one loss in the division. West Milford beat Passaic Valley earlier, but then West Milford wound up losing. I want to say to Fairlawn, I don't know if that's true, but they wound up losing another match earlier in the season. So if both teams win, they're going to get a share of the Independence Division. One loses, one wins, they win it outright. But that's going to be big for the Independence Division for both those programs too. Passaic Valley's won it 2 times in a row. Lost some good wrestlers, including PJ Casale graduation, but Connor Kerwin, who was a finalist at 120 at the PCT, leads that team, is doing a great job with that squad. And they're 190 pounder. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I apologize. Martino, I think it is. I know he won at 190, and talking to him, before we went on the air, the one thing I asked him was, what did you want to do different? I think he talked about it a little bit in the interview with Laith Hampton, which, by the way, great job, Laith, at the tournament, picking it up, doing what you need to do, talking to people, and, great interviews with what you did there. But he asked him, and I think Martino wanted to go against Nick Doctor, who wound up winning at 175. So he was a little disappointed not getting that matchup he wanted, but I think they'll wind up seeing each other again. But, that should just determine the Independence Division when we come out of there. And then one of the big ones, which we're going to be covering it, and if you saw our coverage of the Big North Public Conference Championships last week, it was down to the last match. It was an exciting heavyweight match, which wound up winning it for him. But Clifton's going to travel to PCTI for the Big North Liberty Division. Both teams are undefeated. We're going to be covering it on GardenStateHSWrestling.com. The link will be up that day. But yeah, we're going to be out there live streaming. It'll be myself and James Clark. That's an exciting matchup. And let me tell you something. If that's anything like the first one, you're in for a treat, because that was a great, great matchup. But a couple other matches we're going to be doing next week. We're going to be at Mount Olive on Tuesday, where West Morris is going to face Mount Olive. Mount Olive, interesting week. Beat the PCTI team we talked about handily. Beat St. Thomas Aquinas from Edison, I think they're in, and lost poorly to Hunterdon Central, but they're looking to bounce back. And West Morris swept the quad, has been on a roll. It'll be interesting to see. And, a little trivia fact for a lot of people, excuse me, you may not know this. People talk about how West Morris and Mendham are sister schools. Back in the 50s to the early 60s, Mount Olive was actually the third school in that school district before they branched off and did their own. So nice little old school rivalry there. And they're maybe a mile apart, 2 miles apart school-wise as the crow flies. I think that, with how you do it, some of those, roads out there when you get out to, early Sussex, late Morris County are kind of, so we'll see how that works. But yeah, that'll be a good one. And then we're also doing the Essex County Finals on Thursday. The final, the way I understand it, just so we know for broadcasting, is the finals, the semifinals are going to start at about 4. Then they're going to have the wrestlebacks to, 5th. I think they go to 8th, 7th, 5th, and 3rd for sure. And then they're going to break down to one mat and have the finals. James Clark and I will be on the call for that. So that'll be fun to do. But one of the things too, especially with this week is, talking about coverage we've done, the Passaic County Tournament we did. First of all, thank you to the Passaic County Coaches Association for having us for a second year. The response has been amazing to what we do up there. I've told my wife this numerous times, off camera. I've told other people. Passaic County really embraced me this year. The coaches did. They were open books when it came to the coverage. They, were very helpful with they needed anything. And this is nothing against any other areas I covered, but it felt jaded after a while with certain people. The open arms I received in Passaic, not only from the coaches, from the parents, from the, the sponsors, just everything else. It just really reignited what I do with Passaic County. So thank you for allowing me to cover it for the second year. A couple little highlights of it. Clifton winds up running away with it. They had multiple champions and finalists. I mean, they had I'm going to forget some, but I know Nick Doctor at 175. They had Riley Garcia at 165. Joseph Abil, who got his 100th win during the tournament, and I think spent about 45 seconds on the mat the entire time. So, solid there. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's any other Clifton wrestlers I can think of who, made it up that far. I'm drawing a blank. No, but, they did really well. Joseph Galetta made the final at 150. But that run they had in the upper weights kind of pulled it away. And Clifton had a really good tournament. Congratulations to them and Coach Galetta on a county championship. And I also want to say congratulations to Lakeland. The one thing about Lakeland, you look at their record, they're having to forfeit some guys. And please don't take this the wrong way, not any of their hammers. It's the guys who could be out there, like we said with Wes Morris, who could compete and finish 500 and do stuff like that and fight for you on the mat. When you don't have that, you have to give up to 6. It changes your lineup. So they entered 8 people into the tournament. All 8 medaled, and Lakeland finished second. Now, you enter 14 in. Lakeland finished second with 8. So that tells you just how good those 8 are. Very, very great tournament for Lakeland. And honestly, that kind of leads me, we'll come back a little bit to the tournament. That leads me into my wrestler of the week. We had some guys who did some great things this week. We talked about Abil getting his 100th win. Tyler Vasquez from Del Barton got his 100th at the Jack Welch Duels. Luke Stanage got his 100th for Roxbury Wednesday against Wes Morris. Michael Campanaro got his 100th from Wes Morris, got it this past week during the quad. 100 means something again for a lot of these COVID kids, just because you pretty much for most of them lost the year. You lost one season. So 100 means a lot for these guys. So congratulations on that. But my wrestler of the week is a guy who you want to talk about probably the toughest weight at this tournament. Other ones had obviously state champions, for example, like Adrian DeJesus at 120. Wrestled Connor Kerwin, but Andrew DeJesus is a state champion. You had Ben Marchetto at 113, medalist. Jack Bergman, who did a great job last year and won again. You had a match I could have actually decided on, that, if you get a chance to watch the replay, please go check it out. The 126 final, Ryan Langemeyer Lakeland versus Sazraka Zai of Wayne Hills. You want to talk about 1-0 match. That was a great matchup. And these guys trained with each other. So there was a little trash talk, good natured trash talk, but I digress. Before I get too crazy into it, my wrestler of the week, the man I feel had the best tournament, and the coaches agree with me, Sean Walker of Lakeland. He's the Passaic County Tournament at OW. He comes in thinking he's going to have to wrestle, one of these two guys, because the way everything was broken down, he most likely would have been the first or second seed. Fine. He would have probably had to wrestle, Goleta or Ricardo Banagade from PCTI. But we talked about it earlier, my coverage of the Big North Public Championships. Goleta beat Ricardo in that match. So that wound up throwing Goleta above. So now Walker's got to face both of them. He's now the 3 seed. He beats Ricardo 5-3 in the semifinals, and then comes out and does it again 5-3 and beats Goleta in the finals. Really impressive matchup. Goleta was on a roll the last couple of weeks, and for Walker to go out there and get that win, very, very big win. Sean Walker for Lakeland Regional, you're my wrestler of the week. Now, as I said, talking a little bit more about the PCTI, the Passaic County Tournament, great showing by PCT, which we said, Adam Hamda winning, James Conklin winning, Omar Tarecki, and, they had a really good run of wrestlers to the finals, and they wound up finishing third. Great showing overall by, a lot of these guys. And like I said, when it comes to Walker being my wrestler of the week, he earned it, because you look at some of these other matches, they could have been there, but that's just a great win for Walker. Now, a couple little things I want to do before we go. Obviously, like and subscribe us on all our socials, on GardenStateHSWrestling.com, on Facebook, Twitter at Garden State HSW, Instagram, Garden State HS Wrestling, YouTube, like and subscribe. You'll get more from the podcast. You'll also get our upcoming coverages and stuff like that, and any content we put up. Thank you for everybody who's liked and subscribed so far. I mean, I wake up every morning and I'm getting emails left and right. People are subscribing. So thank you for showing us you love our content and enjoying it. We really appreciate it here. And it shows that we're actually not talking to ourselves in a webcam in our kitchen. So it's good to know. Two things I want to kind of talk a little bit about before we wrap up. First, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this person. Coach Mike Stuck from Randolph and Somerville. Congratulations. He got inducted into the New Jersey Scholastic Coaches Hall of Fame last Sunday. When I tell you, I have the utmost respect for Coach Stuck. If you have never met him and you see him for the first time, he's a very intimidating figure. Big guy, stocky, played football, big in the wrestling, big wrestler. He was so welcoming, not only when I was at the Star Ledger, but when I decided to start my own website. Loves what I write, messages me all the time. Two funny stories about Coach Stuck. Had to be my first or second year of the site. And, I have the coach's information. He called me on Christmas to talk about wrestling. I was like, okay. I was like, Coach, let's get, and I thought something was wrong because why would a coach be calling me? You talked wrestling for about half an hour. I was like, okay. The other funny story, and this is back when I used to work for the Star Ledger, NJ.com. I assume they call themselves now because, nobody wants to go by the Star Ledger anymore. We are sitting down at the state tournament, myself and another reporter. And we're watching the matches, and Coach Stuck's son is wrestling. And it's had to be, I want to say 2010. I might be wrong in that date, so please don't hold that date on me. So Coach Stuck's son had won the counties, but winds up going down the states. And I think he lost in the first or second round. This is before they had you lose in the first round, you could wrestle all the way back type stuff. I think he lost, if I remember correctly, he lost to a Brick Memorial wrestler who wound up making the quarterfinals or semifinals that year, but I digress. And the person who lost to in the finals was James Grogan of Del Barton, who wound up going to either the quarterfinals or semifinals and wrestling the eventual state champ, James Carson from Southern, but tore out literally in the second overtime. Basically tore almost all the ligaments in his leg, just basically went down. Carson gets the takedown at the end, and as seconds expire, goes and does his stuff. So as we're sitting there, match ends, and both mine and the other reporters' phones go off, and it's a text message from Coach Stuck saying, the best criteria is head-to-head. He was stumping for his son to be first team All-Morris. It's just one of those little funny stories, and I understand his point of view. It's just one of those little fun stories. He's a great guy, great coach. And when I tell you, I'm so happy for him and, honored that he honestly was so helpful in the beginning, and he kind of, took me under his wing and guided me as we, we go on this crazy journey in the world of wrestling. And thank you so much. And I couldn't be happier for him. Now, from a happy point to a sad point, this may only talk to a few people in the area. I'm not sure if anybody knows. If you've ever been on Facebook and you've seen the hashtag Johnny Strong, there's a young man in East Hanover named Johnny Kinney who had cancer. He passed away Friday. He basically was dealt a bad hand in life, but he didn't let that bother him. He was still out there, friendly with everybody, was trying to raise awareness, did that. Unfortunately, he lost his battle. And, being somebody from the same town, I see the cans around, and I saw the candlelight vigil they did the other night. And, from everybody here at Garden State HS Wrestling to the Kinney family, we wish you well, and we give you our condolences. I know it's tough, but understand that in his short time, his 14 years, he's touched more people emotionally and spiritually than a lot of people do in their entire lives. So his legacy will live on. not only here, but in the future. So, I mean, if you didn't know him, please do the research on Johnny Kenny, hashtag Johnny Strong. It's a big thing. And, children's cancer is horrible. I always try to donate when I can, because kids shouldn't be dealt the hands they're dealt. And it's a lot of times it's not really fair in life. So, again, my condolences to the family, from my family to yours. We're with you at this moment. It's the same with this area. We're with you. So we are really Johnny Strong at this moment. But before I get too emotional, let's wrap this up. Check us on Facebook. Check us on all our socials. We'll have a post up with what we're going to be covering. But for Jared, the podcasting legend, and thank you, James Clark, for Saturday. I didn't want you to think I forgot you too. We'll see you this Tuesday live, Matt Side from Mount Olive.